Section 8. The Last Warnings and the Sealing of the Final Remnant. As the visions intensified, Dumitru Duduman was granted one of the most solemn glimpses into the heart of God, a final cry of warning before the world would descend into irreversible judgment. Though fire, war, and betrayal had already been foretold, this next revelation struck with even deeper gravity. It was a trumpet from heaven directed not at the world alone, but at the church, at those who professed to know God, but had grown weary, broken, and spiritually dull. The Lord's voice thundered across the heavens, not with wrath first, but with weeping. Return to me. God had not remained silent. Dumitru was shown that the Lord had already sent disasters to awaken the people: fires, floods, earthquakes, and storms. None of them were random, none were merely natural. They were divinely allowed judgments sent as mercy to shake the sleeping. I have done these things to awaken you, said the Lord, but you would not listen. The people had ignored the warnings. They had interpreted disasters as coincidences, as unfortunate events. But heaven was speaking, and few had ears to hear. Then letters were delivered to churches across the land, each one named, each one warned. Dumitru saw these divine dispatches being opened by pastors, leaders, and congregants. The message in every letter was clear. My people are tired, broken, and many have fallen. Tell them to rise, weep, and fast. Rend their hearts, not their garments. Judgment is near. This was a divine summons to repentance, not outward ceremony, but inward sorrow. God was calling his people back to their first love. Then the skies changed. Dumitru saw the sun and the moon grow unbearably bright, blinding in their intensity, and then, in a moment, go completely dark. A voice came from the light. I am the Son of Righteousness. Soon I will judge the earth. Work while it is day, for night comes quickly. This was the final hour. The light that remained was fading. The opportunity to labor in righteousness was vanishing. Dumitru saw a black cloud rushing toward the land. It was not a weather storm, it was fallout, radiation, nuclear judgment. The land was poisoned, the people were paralyzed. But in the distance there remained a glimmer of light. A narrow path shone before Dumitru and his family. They followed it, step by step, though the road was filled with pain, thorns, and sorrow. At the end of the path, a river awaited. Dumitru heard the voice of the Lord again. You must cross. It was not a suggestion, it was a command. Obedience was the only way forward. A heavenly vessel appeared, a divine means of passage, and carried Dumitru and his loved ones across the river safely. Then the Lord spoke once more. Do not be silent, the time is short. Trouble is coming, but I will save those who worship me with clean hearts. This was not a general religious invitation. This was a call to absolute purity and surrender. The Lord would no longer tolerate hypocrisy or mixture. The remnant would be small, but it would be sealed. Then Dumitru was shown Lucifer again, this time in greater fury, mounted on a dragon, exulting in blasphemy. Victory is ours, he screamed. We will destroy the holy. He commanded that Dumitru be captured. But as demonic forces surged toward him, a multitude cried out with one voice, Jesus, save us! And heaven responded. The skies split open. Two glorious angels descended, mighty, radiant, terrible in their holiness. They came not as messengers only, but as warriors. Do not fear, they said, Christ is the victor. Then Dumitru saw two golden books. One was the book of life, the other the book of the Gentiles. The names in the book of life were circled with divine light, sealed for protection. The second book was nearly full. When this book is complete, said the angel, all that you have seen will happen. The beast will rise, the war will begin. But do not fear. Be holy. Jesus is returning. A celestial choir roared through the heavens, a song no man could compose. Jesus is returning. Be holy, be ready. Victory belongs to the Lamb. And Dumitru saw again the radiant garden. It was a place beyond description, soaked in light, saturated with heavenly fragrance. Angels stood at its gates with flaming swords. The voice of one said gently, You cannot enter yet, but one day you will. This was the promise for those who endure, for those who remain faithful, For those who take up the narrow road now, while there is still time. The final warnings were not only prophetic, they were personal. They were being shouted into every home, every church, every soul willing to hear. The last letters had been sent. The books were almost full. The remnant was being sealed. The time of decision had come.